Welcome to Raising Scholars, an educational broadcast brought to you by the Lake Havasu Unified School District in partnership with Shawn, Lawless, and 32 Bravo Media. This is a podcast designed for families to hear all about the mission and vision of learning which is being carried out at LHUSD for both the academic and social-emotional growth of students in our district. It is also a place to share tips, tools, advice, and reflections on how our schools, families, and community can help our students learn to make the most of their potential in their K-12 learning experience. We are so excited to be bringing to you a conversation on a variety of topics from educators, parents, administrators, alumni, and even students across our district. Our goal for you each time is to leave with a little bit more knowledge on how to help your students be successful. So let's dive on in together. Nicole Gray has been an educator for almost 10 years now in Lake Havasu City Schools. She has spent her career focused on helping students understand mathematics at both the middle school and high school levels. She currently serves our students at Lake Havasu High School teaching Algebra 3-4 and was recently honored by her peers with the K-12 Golden Apple Award for all the ways she serves our students and supports other teachers' success. She also won Teacher of the Year for our district amongst our district teachers in 2022. And so we are so excited to hear from her today. Nicole, welcome. I'm so excited to have you today.
Thank you.
So we're going to be talking to parents today on our Raising Scholars podcast, and I'm just really excited to be able to sit with you as a person who is very experienced teaching math, who is a math mind herself. I'm really excited to dig into a topic with you, which is developing math minds. We have so many conversations with parents all the time about how to support their kids in math and how to get past that new way of teaching. So that is really what we're going to dig into with the topic today. And first and foremost, before we actually start the interview, I just want to take the time to congratulate you on your most recent K-12 Golden Apple Award, which you just won last week, right?
Yes, last week.
So
you're very surprised.
I'm not surprised. You just won Teacher of the Year last year. The accolades are definitely well deserved. So I'm very excited for you.
Thank you.
And so again, that's kind of one of the reasons why we wanted to bring you on, is because we know you have the experience, we know you have the connections with kids, and we really want parents to be able to understand your perspective of how we can develop those math minds. So let's get started.
Okay.
All right. So the first question we wanted to dig in with is really just about you. Okay, parents, not every parent knows who you are as a teacher yet. So as an alumni of Lake Havasu Unified, tell us a little bit about your background in education here, and how did you decide to become an educator?
Well, I think this is my 8th year in the district. I've been teaching for 10 years. I graduated from Northern Arizona University. So it wasn't with a math degree, it was in elementary education. And I kind of got pushed, not really pushed, but I got nominated to teach at the middle school level, and I fell in love with it. I love that age group. They're growing into their own, and I love teaching that higher level math. So after doing that for a few years, going up to the high school level was just a natural progression, teaching higher level math, digging in deep to those rigorous concepts that are difficult to understand. I love explaining things and seeing the aha moment light up in their brain. I think becoming a teacher, wanting to be a teacher, I think if you ask any teacher why they became a teacher, they'll say that they had a teacher that influenced them pretty strongly. I have a couple, but probably the biggest one is Mr. Olson, who is still in the district.
Yes, he is.
He was my high school math teacher, one of them, and he was a huge influence on me.
For many kids.
Being a math teacher. There was also Mr. Mishkin at Thunderbolt. He taught math and science, and he was also another really big influencer. So.
Well, I'm excited to hear that, there were people within our district that made a big impact on you, because I know that you do make an impact on so many of our kids. And having known you since you first started, I have seen just the kind of impact that you've made with the kids over time, and I hope you know that we're all really glad you're with us. So, so let's talk about the fact that you grew up in this district. I know that I grew up here as well. I was also an alumni, and with us growing up in the district, why don't you share with some of the parents what you see are some of the difference in the ways we learned, right, in our district,
Yeah.
versus the way we're currently teaching, because I know that's kind of where that conversation is always leading to with parents is, I didn't learn that way, or I don't understand, or I don't recall. So to talk to them a little bit about what you experienced as a student and now what the ways you're teaching as a teacher.
Okay. I think when we were in school, the way that we taught math or the way that we learned math was a lot of rote memorization.
That's true.
And it was memorize this formula, memorize your math facts, which is still a good thing to do.
Right.
But memorize. And they showed us from the get-go algorithms.
Right.
This is what you do. You stack these up. You
Right.
put a placeholder here. We're not going to explain why we do
Right.
that. We're just going to
Yes.
tell you to do that.
Yeah.
And is it easier to learn, especially as a parent looking at their third graders math, and you want to show them, just stack it up. It's easy to do this
Sure.
way. Yes,
Yeah.
it is. And your student will get there. But the way that we are trying to teach mathematics now starts with concrete models, manipulatives,
Right.
teaching them the why and the
Right.
how those things work.
Right.
So if we start, especially in like the K3, K5 level, with hands-on, give them stuff to hold, make it tangible.
Right.
I know that's harder to do at home, but in the classroom, there's manipulatives everywhere.
Oh,
Every K5 classroom has all kinds of manipulatives.
Absolutely.
If they can hold it and see it and touch it, it's easier for them to learn the concept, but also learn why
Right.
and how it's working.
Right.
Instead of just, okay, line it up, match them.
Right.
What's the ones place mean? Well, it means that I have these many singular blocks.
Right.
And it's hard for them to understand if all they do is straight conceptual instead of using the manipulatives. It's harder to hang on to.
Right.
So I think that's where a lot of students would struggle with math because they can't hold on to it and they can't retain it.
Right.
So we're trying to change that now.
Yeah.
We're trying to use a lot of hands-on and then a lot of pictures. So we go from manipulatives to images and then go to the algorithms and the
Right.
patterns and
Right.
the easier concept, if you will.
And you teach middle school, well, you teach high school now, but you've taught middle school and high school math,
Yes.
but you also have kids at the elementary school, as do I, right?
Yes.
And so I think kind of no matter what grade level you're thinking of as a parent, you were speaking about, that concrete and then pictures. So that's Singapore, right? Concrete, pictorial, and abstract is that progression of learning.
Yes.
And so so I think that the importance, I think that we're trying to make sure that we can get your perspective on is how much of an impact that has on their ability to apply the mathematics once they get to those more abstract lessons, right? You're teaching algebra and then they have to learn geometry and calculus at some point and all the, trigonometry, all those things. So so those things are more difficult concepts to have if they don't have all of those other concepts down pat, right? Right. So as a teacher, we just talked a little bit about how curriculum can be built to understand math and build mathematical thinking. So dialing into curriculum as a teacher of mathematics at this point, what do you feel like are the most important components of a strong math curriculum, and what strengths or areas of growth do you feel like we have in the areas of resources that we use?
Right. So definitely that CPA model, which is all about Singapore math,
Right.
which is this our third year doing Singapore.
So it's our Oro Grande had it for one more year than the rest of the district, and then the elementaries had it for 3 years at this point. Yes.
Right. So starting with those concrete, those manipulatives, going into pictorial, and then going to abstract or 3 plus 7, like where you
Right.
see the formula instead of using things or seeing pictures. We did just have the math adoption for the middle school and the high school.
Right.
And as you progress through Singapore, our new adoption, Big Ideas, really syncs well with Singapore math. The middle school doesn't have a lot of concrete, but has tons of pictorial. It uses those built-in manipulatives. The high school also has a lot of pictorial. Not so much hands-on, but at the high school level,
That's great.
we're expected to be moving forward with those abstract concepts.
Right.
They our curriculum, I think, also really important is the technology aspect.
Okay.
In this day and age,
Right,
there's
absolutely.
technology everywhere.
Right.
Your job probably will have to do with technology. So the
Most
more
definitely.
tech they can use, which I'm sure some people won't agree with, they want kids to be away from tech,
Sure.
but if you can get them to use the tech appropriately and teach them well how
Right.
to use tech, it'll help them in their career path.
So how
as
does that
well.
reinforce the math that we have currently? What types of resources do you potentially use in your classroom, or you see maybe at the middle school that help reinforce those at home?
So there's definitely Desmos, which is a website, desmos.com. It's an online graphing calculator.
Okay.
So we try to teach them how to use graphing. So again, it's pictorial.
Sure.
They can visualize it. They can see that this equation looks a certain way on a graph.
Right.
It's a great tool that we use in our classroom. It also gets them away from the graphing calculator. The graphing calculator is old school. I mean,
Sure.
we still use it, but it's
We used them when I went to school, which was a long time ago.
it's old school.
Yeah.
But if you have your phone, you have your device, you have access to these online tools, and we try to show them how to use those tools for sure. In Singapore, I'm not really 100% sure about.
There's not online
tech.
resources,
Yeah.
but I was curious about Big Ideas or the high school curriculum, how much they utilize any type of online lessons or online daily.
Every day. I teach online. Their assignments are online. Their assessments are online. So we use those manipulative tools that are in the online curriculum.
And are those
So it's
available to parents?
They can access the online book.
Oh, good.
And inside the online book is also an online tutor.
Okay.
I don't remember the hours, but it's after school. I think it starts around 1 p.m. until 9 p.m. There's an online tutor. So if your student is struggling with the questions on the assignment, they can click, it's in the bottom corner that says, I need a live tutor. It's a live person, it's not a robot.
Okay.
And you can text them the question, like, can you explain this again? And they'll help you with those questions. It's a neat tool.
So that's really amazing, because I'm one. Do the teachers, or are there letters that go home to let the parents know, like, when those tutoring hours are available, or what those additional resources are?
Yes, at the beginning of the year, we sent a Big Ideas welcome letter home.
great.
It probably went through Clever, so it should have been an email
Sure.
through Clever. And if you need it again, you just have to email your student's teacher, and
That's
I'm sure
great.
they will just send the link to you.
That's amazing. That's
Yes.
great. Thank you for sharing that, just in case there were any parents who hadn't already accessed it. So kind of extending on that conversation about the curriculum, as a parent, right? You've seen the way that your kids' progressions happened, and you've also seen at various levels how that progression happens with the kids that you teach as well.
Yep.
So you have seen the progression of learning from elementary to middle school and now to our high school. Where do you feel like the most important connections between the concepts and standards take place? And are there any pieces of advice you would give it to parents at those crucial years on things they can do to support those concepts?
So crucial would definitely be K-3.
Yeah.
Building those foundational skills.
Right.
When they're in kindergarten, let them play to learn. Use manipulative, sort, add, using concrete items, just items in your house,
Sure.
Dominoes, playing cards,
Right.
anything that they can hold and touch. Learning just those basic adding and subtracting. It sounds crazy, but you as a student, they will add and subtract K-12.
Oh, yes.
They just will.
Absolutely.
It doesn't look the same, but when they get up to my level, they're adding and subtracting polynomials
Yeah.
or quadratics
And integers.
and integers.
yeah.
So just learning those basic skills is so crucial. Integers is also super crucial. Negative values. How do you interpret negative values? So again, concrete evidence is so strong. I think also my son last year was in 6th grade, so he was using Singapore.
Right.
I teach high school level math, but I taught Algebra 1 for a long time, and he was bringing home his Singapore book and showing me his work, and I'm
algebra.
looking at it,
Yeah.
and he's showing me the bar models, and I'm like, this is a linear function. We teach this in freshman year. So
Right.
what are you doing?
Right.
And he was good at it, and
Yeah.
he was doing it. So I feel so confident
Yes.
with that Singapore math leading up to his freshman year when he takes Algebra 1.
Yeah.
they're going to be rock stars.
Well, and I think, there's always that question, how come they're looking at bar models? What was the purpose of this? And I think that's the biggest piece of it, is understanding the connections of why those visual items are so important before you get to the abstract.
Yes, yes. Instead of just jumping into abstract, and they used to struggle so hard because they've never seen it before. Right. And now I'm really excited for his class. We're probably a couple years ahead, right? Because it's been there for a couple years. But when his class gets up to me and I can just, I already know how to do this, Absolutely. Mrs. Gray, and I'm gonna be like.
Well, and that's where those math minds come in, right? Because we still have some rote memorization at that addition, subtraction, multiplication, division. You really can't learn those things without practice over time.
Right.
However, the rest of it comes conceptually over time as we're applying these, concrete, pictorial, and then abstract, right? So, thinking about the role that you've played both in middle school and high school, what are the most specific ways that you encourage mathematical thinking in your classroom, and what does mathematical thinking actually mean to you?
I think mathematical thinking, it means a couple things. I think the biggest thing that I have to have students get on board with the first week of school is a change in their mindset. Because by middle school and high school, that's when they start getting frustrated with math. It might not come as easy to them anymore.
Right.
And they give up before they even try. Yeah. So
growth
mindset, changing the way they're thinking right away. If we can get them, the younger we can get them to change, the better. So do not tell Mrs. Gray, I can't do something. You can do it. Right. We just need to practice. Right. We need to go back through the steps. We need to follow the steps. So mathematical thinking is looking at it in different ways. And you're not alone. It's not only you doing this problem. We have small group, we have whole class, we have stations. Use your buddy, use your partner. Maybe they can explain it better than I can.
Right.
Talk. Right. Do lots of math talk. Say it out loud. What does this problem say? Read it out loud. Read it out loud to your partner so that we can come up with a way to understand the problem better. So, but it's definitely, it's more growth mindset than mathematical thinking at the upper level. Well, I can try.
I'm hearing you refer to math talk, which is, as an administrator, I get really excited when you talk yay, math talk. Mainly because when kids have dialogue about learning, it sinks in.
Yep.
Right? When you teach something, you learn it at a much deeper level. So when they become confident enough to be able to explain it, they are now becoming the teacher, in which case it sets, right?
Yes.
And so I think that's where, things like that you're currently practicing within your classroom, those are the types of things that I've seen in other classrooms that's very helpful for the kids, and really allows the kids to get to that next level because they're engaging with each other in a higher level, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And in our Big Ideas platform, so the middle school and high school curriculum, there's even these self-assessments, and you rate yourself, and it's not a grade. I mean, you're taking accountability for your own learning, and that highest rank, that mastery rank, has a sentence at the bottom. I can teach this to someone else.
Right.
Can you circle that? And that's the strongest.
Right. Well, and it's kind of like your self-assessment or your exit ticket out, how do you feel about today? And they give you a 1, 2, 3 or any other cues that you've developed in your classroom. But so that's really amazing. And I think kind of as an extension of that question just a little bit, are there any ways that you would, any pieces of advice you would give parents on how to word things for kids that, if let's say they're at home and they're trying to practice something at home, and maybe they get done with their homework, any advice on questions that parents could ask to reinforce maybe what they've learned?
If your student's doing homework, I would just ask them, can you explain this to me?
Okay.
Because they might be, well, did I get this right? And just walk them through the question. Well, what do you do first? Or even start with, well, what does this say?
Sure.
Is it 3 plus 7, 3 plus negative 7? What is it that you're doing? I would also ask them, especially at the higher levels, where's your notes? We take notes in every class. Get out your notes, lay them next to each other. Do they look the same?
Sure.
But definitely that explain it to me, because I didn't go to class with you. So if you can explain it to your mom or dad or
Well, and then they can reinforce, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So, what do parents need to understand about concepts that are being taught now to understand their students at home? Is there anything you would extend upon that? You've already talked a lot about just the shift between like rote learning, rote memorization versus conceptual. Or is there any other advice about understanding the actual meaning or the meaningfulness behind the shift in the process of learning?
I think it's just long-term understanding. I know that as a parent, I get lots of parents that are like, well, I did this 20 years ago. I don't know. I don't remember how to do it anymore.
Yeah.
And our goal now is to keep that long-term
Connection.
information.
Right.
Right.
So that it's not just information, it's actual like inset knowledge.
Right.
Yeah, because I want when my kids graduate, just like your kids, right? I want them to be able to go to their job and understand the applications of how, if they go to engineering school, how the applications of those mathematics really do apply to that next level of learning that they're going to be going through.
Yeah.
Okay, so one of the last questions is what we're kind of drilling into like the most important things now. So what 3 mathematical skills or concepts do you feel parents can encourage daily at home that would solidify their students' success in applying mathematical concepts over time? So like if you were to prioritize at home, these are the 3 things I would do for as long as you can.
I would enforce, and this might sound a little weird, I would enforce 15 minutes
Not a lot.
homework time.
Sure.
A lot of our students probably don't come home with math homework. We get a lot of it done. The high school level is a little bit different.
Sure.
But the K6, I see their packets that they get sent home. It's not a lot.
Yeah.
I would take 15 minutes a night and either go over notes that they did, like just have them sit there and study. A lot of it is studying, especially at the middle school and high school level studying. If it's K6, I would have them practice math facts just for 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Any type of math fact.
Absolutely.
Adding, subtracting, depending where your level is, multiplication, fractions, ratios. I would love that. 15 minutes, that's all it takes.
So addition and subtraction, fractions, anything at the upper level, just practicing your notes.
Practicing your notes.
Okay. Great pieces of advice. Okay, so that's really it for our topic questions, which means that we are now to the fun piece,
Okay.
which is where the parents get to know a little bit more about your background, because we want to do rapid fire.
Okay.
So so rapid fire is going to be pretty quick questioning, and here are we're going to go through this pretty quickly, but I'll give you some time to think if you don't know right off the bat. Okay. So what was the favorite thing about where you went to high school, which of course was here?
Yes, at LHHS. I think my favorite part of high school was probably school spirit.
Yeah.
We have so much school spirit at our school,
Absolutely.
and it's overwhelming and wonderful, and it makes it enjoyable. Even now, to work there, I try to do most of the spirit days. Probably not all of them, but
Well, and I
it's
think
fun.
it's what makes it fun for teachers too. It's not just about the culture of the kids, it's about the culture of the entire school and the entire district, right? We all want to make sure we're carrying school spirit throughout. And I would say that our community has a pretty solid school spirit.
Our whole community,
Yeah.
especially on game day Fridays,
Yep.
you can go all over town and see people
Yeah.
with their game day shirts on.
And as long as I can remember, it's been that way. So I love that. That's a good example. Okay, so if you could have any superpower, what would it be?
Oh, that's intense.
This one's fun.
Maybe the ability to fly.
Oh, that was mine. Yeah. I used to
I'd
dream
like
about
to
it.
not
So.
drive.
So yours is more practical application then. Okay. I used to dream about it, so I used to love that that thought process. What is one thing you would tell your 10-year-old self now to give them perspective?
Don't let anyone influence your moods or your
Well, that's
emotions.
hard. That's hard for adults.
Yes, it
That's a
is.
really good piece of advice, though, because if they learn at a younger age.
Yeah. Trust you and your feelings.
Yeah. Gosh, that's really great advice. Who has been the most influential person in your life up until this point, and how have they impacted your leadership?
Oh, that's a hard one. I have several.
I know.
I would say maybe my mom. This sounds a little
That's,
cliche.
it's not surprising. I know your mother, so that's not surprising. Why would,
No.
like, tell us about...
She's amazing.
She is amazing.
She's incredibly involved in everything. She was involved in all of our lives, like education-wise. She was always, the PTO mom, or she was at every meeting, and even now. And I work at the high school, so she comes to my open house at the high school to support me there. She doesn't have any kids there. I mean, just a teacher there.
She's there for you.
Yep. And she's involved in all of my kids' extracurricular activities. She's at every sporting event, at every Boy Scout achievement, at their school. She goes to their no tardy picnics because I can't, because I'm at the high school. She's a rock star.
So you know who you just described? Yourself. So the apple doesn't fall far from the tree, I'll just say. That was a really great description of your mom. That's definitely who she is. Okay, what type of learner are you?
Visual. I'm definitely a visual learner. If I can see it, I can usually manipulate it and do it.
Great. ELA or math?
Math?
Well, you said math wasn't your first go-to. You just happen to be great at it. Okay, so, and then ELA, is that a strong no or just a secondary?
I like to read what I want to read.
Oh, well,
so
absolutely.
maybe not.
Most readers, I think, once they get to a certain age are like that. Okay, when you were a kid, what did you want to be when you grew up?
I wanted to be a lawyer.
Oh.
When I was young.
I could see that. You're very strategic.
I think I outgrew that freshman year.
Okay. Glass half full or glass
Half full.
Always.
Definitely.
And what was the favorite book that you read when you were in school? Do you have a memory, vivid memory?
Like
when you were in school?
High school or just in general?
In general.
The Harry Potter series is my favorite
Second
series.
interview today, and that's definitely... I was too old. I was a teacher by the time that came out, but that's my kid's favorite series as well.
It's my kid's favorite series too, all three of them.
It's definitely a good one to go to. So thank you so much for letting us get to know you a little bit more
Thank you for
and
having
sharing
me.
so much of your insight for math. We are just glad to have you as a teacher at LHUSD, and I'm anxious for the parents to be able to dive in today, and thank you again for joining us.
Thank you.
You're welcome. We want to take the time today to thank you and Shawn Lawless from 32 Bravo Media for helping make our Raising Scholars broadcast a reality. You can tune into this or any new episode at our Lake Havasu Unified School District website, on the communications page, on our Facebook page and YouTube channel, or linked into our quarterly newsletters. Don't forget to tune in to our next episode with Hannah Upton to help understand all about how arts education can serve our kids. And don't forget, the most overwhelming key to a child's success is the positive involvement of parents.